When your rabbit stops dead, completely still, eyes fixed on something you can't see, do you actually know what's happening inside them? Most owners assume it's nothing. A noise outside maybe, a flicker of light. They glance over, shrug, and go back to whatever they were doing. Some owners find it funny, a few find it unsettling, but almost no one stops to ask the real question. But here's what nobody tells you, that freeze isn't confusion, and it isn't fear. It is one of the most precise threat assessment calculations a living nervous system can perform. And later in this video, we're going to get to the one thing that freeze tells you about where you fit in your rabbit's world. Not what you mean to them in a general way, but what your specific presence does to that calculation. I'm saving that one for last. Because once you hear it, everything else in this video lands differently. Let's start with what that freeze is actually telling you. The stillness is a decision. Most owners watch their rabbit lock up and read it as a glitch, like the animal temporarily checked out or lost the thread of what it was doing, so they wait for it to pass, or they wave a hand in front of their rabbit's face, or they call their name and expect them to snap out of it. But what they're actually interrupting, without knowing it, is one of the most sophisticated survival tools in the animal kingdom. That freeze isn't absence, it's the opposite. It's total presence. Rabbits are prey animals. Their entire nervous system was built around a single priority: survive long enough to outrun the thing that wants to eat you. And when a rabbit freezes, they're doing something extraordinarily specific. They're going completely motionless to collapse their movement signature, because movement is what predators track. A frozen rabbit becomes, in the perceptual world of a hawk or a fox, essentially invisible. Animal behaviorists who study lagomorph threat response describe this as tonic immobility, a hardwired involuntary cascade where the body drops all non-essential output and redirects everything into sensory processing. Hearing sharpens. The eyes, already capable of near 360-degree vision, go into full scanning mode. The whiskers still. The breathing slows. Your rabbit isn't gone in that moment. They are more fully switched on than they are at almost any other point in their day. That's not spacing out. That's the oldest software they have, running at full speed. The ears tell the whole story, but most people read them backwards. Most owners notice their rabbit's ears during the freeze and assume they're just part of the stillness, that everything stops, including the ears, so they don't pay attention to them. But the ears are the most active part of a frozen rabbit, and if you know what to look for, they're telling you exactly what their nervous system concluded about the threat. Rabbits have independent ear rotation. Each ear can swivel separately, like two satellite dishes running different searches at the same time. During a freeze, you'll often see one ear pivot toward the suspected sound source, while the other holds a wider angle. That's not a quirk, that's triangulation. Or researchers studying European wild rabbit colonies observed that freeze events lasting longer than 8 seconds almost always correlated with a specific directional ear lock, both ears ultimately converging on the same point. When that happens, the rabbit has found the source. The decision that follows, bolt, thump or relax, comes from what the ears confirmed. Think about that for a second. In those 8 seconds of silence, your rabbit ran a full threat analysis with their body. You just didn't have the language to read it. Not random. Reconnaissance. And here's where it gets even deeper, because the thing underneath the freeze isn't the instinct. It's the calculation your rabbit is making about safety, and that's where you come in. Most owners think of the freeze as something their rabbit does despite them, a response to the outside world that has nothing to do with the bond between them. So they sit quietly and wait, maybe feeling a little helpless, like they're watching something they can't reach. But they're missing the part of this that matters most. Your rabbit's threat threshold, the sensitivity level at which that freeze response fires, is not fixed. It is continuously adjusted by one variable above almost all others: who is in the room. This has been documented in attachment studies on social prey animals. When a bonded companion is present and calm, the freeze threshold rises. The animal needs more stimulus to trigger the full response. When they're alone, or uncertain, the threshold drops. Smaller sounds, less movement, shorter time before the body locks. What this means in plain terms is that your rabbit's nervous system is using you as data. Your stillness, your breathing, your calm, it's feeding directly into their threat assessment in real time. You are part of their early warning system. You are part of how they decide whether the world is safe. That's not your rabbit ignoring you during those freezes. That's your rabbit depending on you in a way you never knew to notice. And by the way, remember what I mentioned at the start about what the freeze tells you about where you fit in your rabbit's world? We're almost there. And the reason I saved it for last isn't just because it's the deepest part. It's because it only makes full sense once you understand everything we just covered. And if you're finding yourself seeing your rabbit completely differently right now, hit like and subscribe. This channel exists for rabbit owners who want to understand what their animal is actually doing. And there are a lot of us who never had anyone explain it like this. Now, the release. Most owners completely overlook what happens after the freeze ends, which means they're missing the half of the behavior that contains the most important information. They see their rabbit unfreeze, shake out their fur, maybe thump once, and then go back to whatever they were doing, and they file the whole thing away as a weird little moment. But the release is a verdict. It's the end of the trial, not the end of the show. Animal behaviorists who study prey species distinguish between two types of freeze release. The alert-to-flight transition, where the animal moves immediately into an escape posture, body low, weight shifted back, and the alert-to-relax transition, where the body shakes out the tension, the ears go soft and normal behavior resumes. That second one, the shakeout and return to calm, is a physiological reset. The nervous system is releasing the cortisol spike from the threat response. The rabbit assessed, concluded it was safe, and let it go. Ethologists who study domestic rabbit behavior note that rabbits who release into relaxation rather than vigilance in a home environment are displaying what's called a secure base response, a behavioral signature that appears almost exclusively in animals who trust their environment deeply. Be honest. How many times have you watched your rabbit unfreeze and just moved on without registering what that release actually said? That shakeout isn't them being dramatic. That's them deciding home is safe. This is the one I mentioned at the start, when your rabbit freezes and you're in the room, close enough to be seen, still enough to be read, and then releases into calm and goes back to you, back to whatever they were doing near you. That is not a coincidence. The threat response fired. The body ran its full assessment. The ears triangulated. The cortisol rose. And then the animal looked at the evidence. All of it, including you sitting there breathing, unbothered, and concluded, not a threat. I'm safe. I can let this go. Imagine what's actually happening in that moment. Every instinct your rabbit carries, instincts built over millions of years for a world that wanted to eat them, is running a survival calculation, and you are one of the inputs, not in the background, not incidentally. You are a variable in the equation. Your presence, your calm, your being there, it changed the outcome. Most owners never know they were part of that moment at all. They were there, they were counted, they just didn't know to look. That freeze wasn't your rabbit disappearing into their own world. That was your rabbit measuring the world against you, and finding it safe enough to stay. Your rabbit doesn't freeze because they're simple animals responding blindly to noise. They freeze because the stakes are always real to them. Every time they release back into calm, back into the room, back toward you. They are telling you something that prey animals almost never say out loud. You are not a threat. You are a reason to stay. You are what safe feels like. They've been saying it every time. In silence, in stillness, in the shake of their fur as they let the fear go. They were never talking to no one. They were always talking to you.